Welcome back to the Larry Hembree pregame show. We're on our Where Are They Now segment, and I'm talking with 1967 graduate Steve Brett in his home in Seymour, Indiana. Steve, how you doing this Christmas season?
Pretty good, Larry.
You have all your Christmas shopping done this year?
Amazingly, I do this time. I usually wait till the 24th and get it done then, but I think I've got it done right now.
Well, you're one day ahead of me, probably, so I've got to head out here in a little bit. Hey, listen, Steve, you played in 1967. Who were some of the ball players you played with in that era?
Seniors in my class were Pat Pankey and Kenny Fry, Neil Williams, Ronnie Richardson. We were all seniors that year. Starting five, I recall, was Pat Pankey played center, and Kenny Fry and I played guard together. And Rex Strawn and Jim Nigg were the forwards, and Roger Wildman, as a junior, was sixth or seventh man. So that was a group of kids that we played with, and I think my senior year we were 20-3, and the year before that we basically all played the year before together, with the exception, I think Steve Elms was a starting center that year, and Terry Hassler was the other senior. We just had two seniors when I was a junior, and I think we were 18-5 my junior year. So we had a pretty good group to play with.
Steve, you played in the old gym as compared to a lot of players that played in this new gym. What was it like in that old gym, and how many times did you end up in Coach Butcher's office upstairs?
I think it was commonly called the hot box.
The hot box, right.
I probably had my share of times in there as much as anybody else. I know when Coach Butcher said, or you saw the finger motion you that direction, you knew something good wasn't going to happen.
Well, that was a tight gym, too, and, of course, I was just a young fella, but I remember my grandparents, Johnny and Edna Jackson, made sure I had an opportunity to go to the ball games, and some of my very first memories of basketball were of you and Kenny Fry, and I kind of remember a game down, I believe it was at Jasper, when you beat them in a holiday tournament. Would that have been in 1967?
Yeah, it was. Would have been December of '67. It would have been 30 years ago. Right? I don't know. It'd be 31 years. It'd be December of '66. I guess it would have been 31 years ago right now. And we had played in the holiday tournament the year before, and got beat by Rex Mundy, I think, in the preliminary rounds, and then had played Washington Catholic in the consolation and won that one. And then the next year we kind of wanted to prove something, I think, and Jasper was pretty cocky at the time, had a pretty good team, and I think we played Washington Catholic in the preliminary round that year and beat them, and then played Jasper in the finals. And one thing I recall about that game was that at halftime it was a pretty close ball game, and an Otto kid from Jasper had been hitting some shots in the corner, and I think Jim Nigg was guarding him. And I remember going to the locker room before Butcher could ever say anything to him about getting a hand up on him. I think Rex Strawn and the rest of us kind of jumped him, and I remember Nigg saying something about he was shooting from the 8th row or something like that. And then we came back out at halftime, and of course the fans behind the bench were giving Butcher a hard time and saying something about this going to beat us. And right before we went back out on the third quarter, I remember Coach Butcher taking his billfold out and slamming it down on the end of the scorer's bench there, and turned around that fan and said, "I'll just bet you don't beat us," like that. Of course, all of us kids saw that, and he gave us some confidence going in. I think we ended up winning the game by 10 or 11, 12 points. But Coach Butcher will say that I've embellished that story, and you know how all that is. But
right.
Like I always tell him, I've got witnesses.
Look, Steve, you, like I said, graduated in '67. Now, I'm not sure, were you in the game the year that Rex Strawn fouled out in the first quarter?
No.
South Knox. That was a year later, I guess.
But
right?
I did get to witness that game.
Oh, you did see it?
I was a freshman at Indiana State, and I think that's one of two games I got to see that year because I was playing basketball up there and couldn't get home to see the games. And it was at South Knox. And, of course, Rex was always in foul trouble, it seemed like, because he was a pretty physical player. But he held his own and did a great job for us. But I remember going down to South Knox to see him play that year. And of course, all of us former players in the stand knew what was going to happen because he kept picking up fouls. He'd get his third for first quarter, and Coach Butcher didn't take him out and then let him get his fourth, and we all knew what was going to happen if he got his fifth. And I think Rick said he has a distinction of being the only player to have a full halftime devoted to him.
Well, I don't know about that. Maybe up to that time, maybe.
Right.
But, you know, I don't want to take anything from Rex. I don't get off the subject, but Rex was a good ball player. He scored 668 points in his career at Loogootee, and a lot of people remember that story, but he was a good athlete.
Well, you know, he was a big guy, not a real tall guy, but did a heck of a job rebounding for us. And Kenny and I always knew, you know, you bring the ball down the floor, and Rex would always motion for you to bring that guy here. I'll get you open, you know. And he was the epitome of a team player, and all of us guys got along real well. I think we had all 5 starters averaging double figures that year, and it was a real team-oriented group of guys.
Steve, one thing I recall as a young fellow, I said my grandparents lived right across the street basically from your parents and where you grew up. So you had an old basketball goal in your backyard, and every chance I'd get, I'd be able to sneak up there and shoot baskets. And I can remember as just a little fellow shooting a few jump shots out there with you guys. And, you know, it kind of watching, you know, Loogootee basketball players being a young fellow like myself, and I know I'm not alone. There's many other young guys that grow up and kind of idolize certain ball players for one reason or the other. Do you see that going on today at the high school level as much as it did?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And, you know, I did the same thing. I remember Junior G was my idol when I was in grade school and junior high, and I can remember going down to the outside courts down there at the school, and this little old scrawny kid trying to get in games, and Junior would always pick me on his team because he knew he was good enough to win, and he knew I'd pass him the ball. But you know, you see kids doing that now, and we have it here at Seymour where little kids, they all know who these high school kids are, and you know, we try to tell them all the time, there's always little eyes watching you, so you got to be careful what you do, and be sure to set a good example for them. And hopefully we as players did that, because I know Junior and Darrell Smith and all those guys, Steve Page and Mike Bollinger and Mike Harbison, and all those guys did those things for us, and you know, you just try to pass it on.
Well, you left Loogootee. You mentioned you went to Indiana State. What have you been up to? And we're, you know, kind of bring our listeners up to date about Steve Brett and your family and what you've been up to since you left Loogootee.
Well, walked on at Indiana State and played basketball there for 4 years, and then was an assistant coach at Vincennes Lincoln for 6 years, 3 years as a freshman coach, and then 3 years as JV coach. And then left there and went to Bloomfield as varsity coach and was there for 16 years. And I think maybe the first year or two I was there, you were playing at Loogootee, as I recall.
Well, that's true. And you guys beat us on our home floor in '78. And
well, we were lucky.
But well, maybe so. But you did come up to me after the game and spoke to me, and I always appreciated that. In fact, even when you were assistant at Vincennes, you were assistant baseball coach, I believe, as well down there, right? And I made a bad play. Actually, I don't want to repeat that, but I made a bad play at the end of that game, and you came up to me again and spoke to me. So, you know, I always greatly appreciate that. So, but anyway, we got beat, but that's not the story. But you're right. That was what you went to Bedford or Bloomfield in about 77 or 8.
77, 78.
Right. That was my senior year at Loogootee.
The year of the blizzards, the way I remember.
Right.
All the games postponed, and I think I recall we were out of school for about 2.5, 3 weeks, and had a bunch of games postponed. And when we had to make them up, I think we played one weekend where we played Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. I think we played 6 games in about 7 days one week to try to get them all caught up, and we still ended up not getting one game made up. But it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun at Bloomfield for 16 years, and coaching against Coach Butcher. You know, he taught me a lot of lessons as a player and taught me a few more as a coach. So, but enjoyed my time there, and then had the opportunity to come to Seymour, and I've been here for this is my 5th year now at Seymour.
Well, Steve, in closing, tonight, obviously you've been the focus of Where Are They Now segment, and Coach Butcher had mentioned, you know, that you were a fine player, and mentioned your parents, and a story about how, you know, they had, you'd had a particularly good game one night, and they had, somebody was asking them about that, and they said, well, we didn't really come to see Steve score, we come to see the Lions play. And a story about, you know, kids' parents, he embellished. What do you recall about Jack Butcher as a coach, and And what did you take away from the game from Coach Butcher?
Well, that's hard to say because you take so many things away from being around a guy like that for as long as we were, and it's like having another parent. And like I said, he taught me a lot of lessons, not just about basketball, but about life in general. And hopefully some of the kids that played for me picked up some of the same things.
Well, Steve, I just want to thank you for coming on tonight. I know that you've been a good friend to Coach Butcher and to the Loogootee program over the years as you went on with your career, and a lot of people in Loogootee have followed you and interested in knowing what's going on. And I think gentlemen like you that come on to the program and talk about Loogootee basketball, you help further the tradition of the game. And to the young fans that listen, and to the older people who can't make it to the games anymore, they really appreciate being able to hear from people like Steve Brett again. Steve, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas to you and your family, and I wish you the best of luck this holiday season.
Well, I sure appreciate it, Larry. I certainly enjoyed talking to you.
Okay, you take care, sir.
All righty.
Bye.